talking about moderates in 2012. What makes you think moderates in 2012, they played an important role in this election, obviously. What makes you think they're going to be more, less conservative or tilting more moderate in 2012? Independents, you said, were going to be more moderate.
Well, there's just going to be a lot more independent. I mean, you know, the turnout nationally is going to increase by at least a third. So you're going to have 55, 60, 65 million people come out who didn't vote in 2010. And so, you know, there's a lot more Democrats than Republicans in that. The independents that come out will tend to be of a more moderate nature than those that voted in 2010, who might have been independents in terms of either their voter registration or their self-profession, but they're really Republicans. So it's just going to be a more moderate voting universe, as it was in 2008. You know, the independents in 2008 compared to 2010 were much more moderate. And it's hard to compare, that's not an apples to apples comparison, which is often made. But I think those independent voters are also those that are going to be really casting around. As I said, I really think what happened is they said, okay, Republican X or Y or Z, we'll give you our vote for tonight. And then we're going to step back and we're going to evaluate. I'm going to evaluate all of you, Democrats, Republicans, and we'll see who we think is doing what we think is in the best interest of the country.
Is the president going to have to attract his base or maintain his base as well, just as you described a minute ago, the Republicans having to cater to the base, and particularly you focused on the candidates on the Republican side who are going to be nominated as being essentially from the conservative wing of the party. Isn't the president going to have to deal with that on the Democratic side too? He's going to have to deliver for his base as well.
Well, he's focused on delivering for the country, so there will be a time for our campaign, and you know, it will not begin in earnest for some time. And obviously, yeah, you know, in a campaign, you figure out, how do I get to 50% of the vote where I need to get there. But I do think when the choice is between President Obama, the direction he has tried to take the country and will continue to take the direction, and the direction that Sarah Palin and Glenn Beck and Rush Limbaugh want to take the country, I think that's going to be a highly, highly motivational dynamic. And make no mistake, I'm not being flip. That is, the leaders of the Republican Party today are not John McCain or John Boehner and Mitch McConnell. They are Palin and Limbaugh and Beck. That is where the energy is, it's where the voters are, it's where the activism is, it's where the donations are. And, you know, again, I don't think that's a recipe for great electoral success in a presidential election year, but there's a lot we don't know. You know, there's going to be more a critical eye put to what the Republicans are saying and doing. And this is where I think there's going to be a lot of attention, because I think there are Republicans in Congress, let's say, who do want to say, okay, let's try and find common ground. You know, let's not just appeal to the people who believe everything they see on, you know, Glenn Beck's show. But you got to understand that that's difficult because all the energy's with the people who are watching Glenn Beck's show. So the question is, can they override that and say, you know what, for the good of the country, we're going to try and seek common ground and try and find some ways to move the country forward. So we'll see. But I think that if you look at how Republican nominations are likely to be decided, you know, from the presidential level all the way down to locally, I think you're going to see more candidates next time holding the views of, you know, the Palins and the O'Donnells and the Pauls than you did this time. I really do believe that.
And you think that's going to make it easier for President Obama's reelection?
Well, it could. We don't know. You know, a lot, you know, where the economy is, you know, how people view his leadership, how they're, you know, but my point is that I don't think it's helpful to the Republican effort politically, but there's no stopping it. That's where we're headed. So they are going to nominate very conservative candidates. And listen, I'm not saying that that necessarily means they are consigned to electoral failure. A lot goes into that. But I think it doesn't make it any easier for them in the long term, because I think that, you know, that's not where I think the middle of the American electorate is. And I certainly don't, I think it's going to be a motivational factor for the Democratic base.
Everybody hear the question, will
Yes.
President Obama be a one-term president?
No. No. This will be an 8-year period in American history, and I think 8 years that will be looked back as very important and meaningful.